Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. Excited for today's episode. We are talking to a psychologist and a CEO leadership coach. And what he does is he helps people find and actualize their purpose and calling, doing work they love to do, are good at, and while contributing to and connecting with others. So I'm excited to be rocking out today with Yosi Amram. Hey Yosi, ready to rock?
I am. Let's rock and roll, Tim.
Let's rock and roll. We always start off here on a good note. So tell me a story of success that we can be inspired by.
Wow, story of success. I've had the good fortune of starting and building two companies that I have taken public, and that's certainly been super gratifying. Building organization and people that are aligned around a shared mission and purpose. My first company was the first company to do personal newspapers before the internet, so you would get Tim's Morning News on your fax machine, and you would tell our software agents what articles are relevant or not. So it had self-learning, and it would hone in on your interest. And this was before the internet, and then we moved and changed our business model to the internet when that came and became a huge threat. And I managed to take that company public and then a second company public. So that was super gratifying. And the people from these companies have stayed together. We've had reunions. There's a real sense of community that got built because we all shared the same vision and values. And so there was a sense of belonging and excitement to be working together,
Hmm.
So it wasn't without its challenges. And you'll ask me probably about some of my darker moments, which also I had, but those are some exciting, successful things. And since then, I've pivoted my work to a whole different thing where I'm doing coaching and psychotherapy, and I had to start over. And my practice these days is full, and so that's been very gratifying to start a second career in a whole new, different line of business, and basically have my referral network and whatever give me more business than I can handle. So that's been fun.
Wow, wow. That's really cool. I love this first story about the about because something like the internet coming on board and all of a sudden it kind of threatening your business and you're able to kind of like pivot and move it away from there. Because I feel like we're kind of in another situation like that right now with AI, right? Where there's probably
Totally.
a lot of businesses that are going like, oh, the way I do business is gonna have to change, right? Right?
Yeah. It was
And
super tricky how to do that because you got to move in this direction, but we had this revenue stream based on a
mhm.
subscription basis on fax, and then on the internet, it was clear it was all going to be ad supported and free. So if you start offering that, then you cannibalize your core revenue, and then we had all these investors and pressure to keep the momentum and grow the revenues and pay the payroll and the bills, etc. So yeah, that was super challenging, and I was burned out. I got frozen and scared, and I went into a depression actually, because
Wow.
I didn't really know how to navigate that. And I had, hundreds of employees looking up to me to say, "Well, how are we going to navigate this?" And I really didn't have a good answer right off. So I just kind of went into this depression, but I persisted, and we figured out a strategy and turned it around into an internet company, and then was able to take it public. That was a
Wow.
super exciting time. Now that also led to another crash. So I just want to highlight that for me, life has been full of successes and then setbacks and then this quality of resilience and getting up again. But when the company went public and it was the early days of the internet, I was running around like crazy trying to capitalize on all these opportunities. And one day I was getting a deep tissue massage trying to relax. And that kind of, as I was relaxing, went into this deeper and deeper state and dissolved my ego. And I had a spiritual awakening where I felt like I was part of this one field of consciousness, and my body and my consciousness and the one who was experiencing it are all one. And that's kind of classical spiritual awakening, but my mind couldn't contain that notion. So it threw me into a manic episode. And I was trying to run a company while I was kind of in this manic state. So my board freaked out, my team freaked out, and they said, "Hey, we're going to put you on a voluntary leave of absence, take 90 days, go chill out," and so on. And they called it a voluntary leave of absence that the board voted, but it really wasn't voluntary
No,
at
it was
all.
involuntary. Yeah.
But it was called a voluntary leave of absence. And basically I was then pushed out of the company because I said, no, I'm not taking any time off. We got to do these projects right now. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And so then then I resigned and they fired me. It was a huge drama. And our stock price got cut in half and I was shunned, I was canceled basically. I was this high-flying CEO, and all of a sudden there were the headline stories in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal that Yosi is emotionally unstable and all this stuff. And people wouldn't return my phone calls and emails. And so that was a big trauma and a big loss. But again, the thing is to be resilient and I stayed with it and then I kind of took care of myself, got my mood stabilized, and I started this other company that I was able to take public. So my point is I think the key is to have the grit, to have the resilience, to have the faith in ourselves, to have the faith in life, and get up and do it again. And
Yeah.
uh, and if we have the perseverance and the faith in ourselves and the trust, then good things tend to happen. And so I'm just trying to say that, but fortunately, since I moved to my coaching practice, working from home, and psychotherapy practice, I don't have the same pressures that being a CEO and raising tens of millions of dollars from investors, which is why that pressure cooker burnt me out. And now I get to work from home with people, my clients, and I get all the lessons I experienced and the difficulties are actually became part of my gifts that I can share with others because they're facing similar pressures and I've been there in their shoes and that makes me so much more valuable. But I get to do really meaningful work, help these people, leverage all the success and the pain that I've had into lessons to help others, and do the work that I love to do, which is helping them awaken spiritual intelligence. So these days, I'm passionate about this idea of spiritual intelligence, and I'm working with that and seeing how it's not some kind of esoteric woo-woo idea, but it's very practical, helping people get inspired and lead inspired lives. And so it's very meaningful and to me and to them, and we have a deep connection. So even though I'm working from home, I don't feel as lonely or isolated, which is, I think, is one of the challenges. One of the
Yeah.
things that I missed in leaving the corporate jobs is that you're part of a team and you're part of a community and you're all working towards a common purpose. So I've had to kind of figure out how to do that in this role. But it's
Mhm.
been gratifying immensely. I've been doing it now for 20 years, and I just feel blessed. I have enough clients, more than I can handle. I have deep connection with them. I have a network of people that support me and on my team. So, yeah.
Wow. Well, I'm so grateful that you share those bad notes as well, because it's so funny how when I ask you for the good note, we hear this like truncated story that just sounds like what? You just kind of like fly into success. And then when we try to dig into it, you find that, oh, it wasn't like that.
It
And I
wasn't a
think that,
smooth sailing all the way. No way.
yeah, yeah. And I think that people, but I think what I want people to understand who are thinking about starting something or at the beginning parts of their journey is that I know we can get kind of a little bit stuck about, oh, I don't want to fail, or I know there's going to be all these challenges that I'm going to have to go through. But I mean, let's face it, we all have challenges no matter what your role is. I mean, if you're working in a company right now that you don't feel connected to, you're probably facing challenges in that company and you're persevering and you're working towards it and you're just solving these problems as they come. Well, isn't that kind of what you have to do for yourself as well? Okay, fine. They might get bigger. And like you say, I mean, being a CEO, having all these investors, like those are big level problems that would crush just about anybody. But what we're talking about here and what you're talking about now is that you've kind of gone down to the work from home. Now your problems are this big, right? And I guess just depending on what you're building and how big your business gets, the problems just get bigger. But you grow as you go, right?
Yeah, it even rhymes. Grow as you go.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. Grow and yeah, and that's part of what we're here. For me, there's no just necessarily a final destination where I've made it, and it's like part of being human is like learning and growing, and that's the joy, and we actualize our capacities. That's the most fulfilling thing. So yeah, you have challenges at work. If you work in a corporate environment and a job, it gives you a stable income and so on, and you're on a health plan and all that's all
Yeah.
great. You have your health insurance, etc. At least in the US. I don't know in Canada, may you have national and all of that, but it's not so simple here. But then you go on your own and you have these challenges about making the income level you want and
Yeah.
so on. But you get to really choose your calling and
Yes.
actualize. Whereas if you're working in an organization, you're not always both aligned with the product they're building or the mission. And then maybe you're not feeling like your unique creative talents are utilized.
Yep.
And because you're stuck in a job and you have to do this, this, and this. And maybe only 10% of your job is really the things you love to do and are your gifts and are your purpose and your calling. Whereas if you decide to become an entrepreneur, an individual, you could say, okay, this is what I love to do. I'm really good. Let's say I'm good at listening for people and I'm very empathic and I'm going to become a therapist and I'm going to
Yeah.
become a whatever. I'm going to become a coach, or I really love beauty and graphics and a graphic designer, or I love programming and I do programming from home for
Yeah.
whatever. So there's so many things nowadays we could do uh, from our home office, and but we want to choose the things that really are our unique gifts that we're good at, because when we actualize those, that's when we feel most engaged, most contributing. It's like life gave us gifts. Each of us have our own gifts that we're born with, and life is kind of asking us, unwrap your gift, use it. Like
Yeah.
if someone gives you a birthday gift and you never unwrap it and leave it in the closet, they're like, "Hey, Tim, I gave you this gift. What are you using it?" And they're like, "Oh no, it's in the basement and I never opened it." So life gives us a gift, and all these gifts in each person. Some people have a great sense of humor. Other people are great programmers, whatever it is. And so we want to use these gifts, and then we feel actualized, then we're good at it. Then we use it to contribute, which connects us to other people. And
Yeah.
that's what the Japanese art of Ikagaya is, when the reason for being, it's this convergence between what we love to do, what we're good at, what we enjoy, and what contributes to others. And when all these things line up in this Venn diagram, then life has great meaning and great joy and great fulfillment.
I agree. So, okay, now one thing though that I find is very common with anybody who decides to work for themselves is that they have to attract fans. They have to get people into the door, right? And because everything that you just mentioned, that specialized purpose, the whatever it is that they really enjoy doing is great. But if they got no one to do it for, then you're kind of stuck, right? So everybody has to figure out how to get fans. And I'm wondering, what's your strategy? How do you do it?
Well, I mean, I think you go for a community that you can relate to. So, I came out of the world of being a tech CEO myself, And so I can relate to these people. And so, I build a very quick rapport and connection with them. It's like I've been in your shoes. And so I could, help you. And then, these people network with each other. And then they say, oh, I have this great coach. And then they tell their friends, or I work with couples. And I help couples in their relationship. And then once few of the couples really feel the relationship turned around, they're all talking to their friends. And so many people have difficulties in their romantic relationships, their marriages, whatever, and they're talking to their friends, and the women are talking to their women friends, and the guys are talking to their guy friends, and like, yeah, I'm having a problem in my relationship too. And yeah, and oh, I had this great therapist who really helped us. So then they contact me. So it starts small, and you got to start with your network, immediate
Yeah.
network. And so I'm just using my thing about being a coach and a therapist, but you could be a yoga studio owner, and you can help other yoga studio owners, or you could be you decide, okay, I'm going to be a home cook chef, and then you use your network of friends, like who needs help. I'll do some home cooking for you out of your own network, and then you build it from there. But you have to have the courage to think in who in my Rolodex really knows and trusts me. Those are going to be the first people that are going to be willing to go with you because they know you and they know you're cooking. They know they've been to your home and they're like, oh, so and so makes great food. Yeah, I'd love to have them once a week deliver a thing that I could just warm up for 3 or 4 days. And then those people tell their friends come over and it's like, oh, this is delicious soup. Oh, yeah, I have
Yeah.
this person that delivers once or twice a week. And so, but you start small and you from your own network and then you build up from there.
What happens when you run out of your network, though?
Well, that's the point. At that point, you gotta get referrals, and if you're good and you made the first people that came from your own network successful, then they have
Yeah.
that network, and
Yeah.
then you could do all kinds of marketing programs like incentivize them to refer people to you. You give them something, you refer a friend to me, and I'll give you this, that, or the other, and then you get the word. You're trying to get the word of mouth going. The
Yeah. Yeah, you're over delivering and under promising, right? And I think that I think that's a really good way to handle it. I mean, when you're handling your friends, family, and all that stuff, as long as you are supplying more than they would expect, then of course they're going to tell someone about it. And I think they'll really, for people that are thinking, oh, I don't know, the thing to think about is that if it's something that you feel called to do, if it's something that you really love doing, like you say, I mean, if it's in that Venn diagram, you're excited to do it. It's not like, oh, I spent so much time cooking that meal. That time just flies away because you love doing it, right? And if you love doing it and you're doing a really good job, then like you say, those first few people will start, telling other people. Now, do you like prompt them to tell other people about it? Like, do you have some sort of like referral programs or?
Yeah, you early on you do that. I mean, early on I was definitely, more actively marketing myself and going to events. And now we have social media. So if let's say just stay with this analogy that you love to cook, then you can post on Instagram or Facebook favorite recipes or dishes or photos of your dishes or whatever, and then people start to share them and like, oh yeah, that was delicious. How do I make that? Whatever. So yeah, I mean, but you have to do some work, no question about it, and you gotta get out of a little bit of your comfort zone, perhaps, of just having a
Yeah,
boss that tells you what to do. But that's the challenge. That's the opportunity. You get to be your own boss, and then you're accountable to yourself. So you have to be self-motivated. Nobody's going to be, cracking the whip and saying, "Hey, what are you doing? You're just goofing off." No,
Yeah,
no. But I mean, this is my business. This is my livelihood. I gotta make a living at it.
yeah,
So then you gotta be self-motivated. You gotta be inspired. But as you said, if this is what you love to do and it's meaningful to you, and you make the leap, this is how I'm going to make my livelihood, then you're kind of got to go for it.
I agree. I agree. Yeah, and I do think that nowadays, especially like you say with social media, it's so much simpler now to get that word out there than it was, 20 some years ago or 30 years ago. Now it's a matter of like I really do feel like we're in a situation where you can actually make a go of it with some hard work. Maybe back then, if you didn't have the right connections or you didn't have enough money to get started, you might have had some struggles, and hard work isn't just might not have been enough. Uh, I would argue that it always has been enough, but whatever. Some people might think that it isn't, but now especially, I mean, it's hard if you've got a passion for what it is you do and you love doing it. So it doesn't matter how much time you're spending doing it. You do a great job at it and you put the work in, you start, connecting with people on social media and all that stuff. You can compete with just about anybody nowadays, right?
Yeah. And I think it's important to take the leap and even if it doesn't quite work out, you can always go back and get a job.
Absolutely.
But I don't want to wake up when I'm, whatever, 60, 70, 80 and feel like, oh, my life passed me by and I never really took the risk and I always compromised and never really applied myself. So I don't know that to me is part of living an inspired life. And to me, that's part of what I'm talking about in awakening spiritual intelligence, which is, connecting to our spirit and our life force energy in its depth and rooting ourselves there. And then from there, all these qualities of purpose and service and gratitude and trust and compassion and forgiveness, and humility and passion and devotion and start to wake up. And then when we,
Yeah.
we start to actualize these qualities in our lives, we feel more fulfilled, more connected, and more empowered and
Yeah.
connected to ourselves and others. And, that's the amazing thing. These qualities have been talked about as virtues for thousands of years across all the world's traditions, regardless of if you're talking Buddhism or Hinduism and Christianity, Islam, whatever. And putting aside those things as religion, people are looking for deeper meaning and spiritual fulfillment in their lives. And
Yep.
now you have these modern fields of positive psychology and, people like Marty Seligman are looking not at psychology as just like how do I deal with mental illness and disease, but what leads to fulfilling quality life. And they're
Yep.
identifying the same qualities of purpose and service and trust and humor and joy and gratitude and compassion and service and interconnectedness. And so you got this field of positive psychology that's highlighting the same qualities that have been talked about for thousands of years
Yeah.
in spiritual intelligence. And then you got leadership development, leadership theory, and they're looking at the same thing. We want leaders that have high sense of integrity. They have a sense of purpose. They have a set of values that align with us. And so they build a community of people around them that have a shared sense of values that like to work together. So, to me, that's very exciting because we have modern science now validating what the sages and the elders have been saying for thousands of years. Find your purpose, live a life of service,
Yeah.
you know, trust yourself, trust life, trust other people, express gratitude, appreciation, live in integrity, honestly, be humble. These are the qualities. And when we see it in other people, we're naturally drawn to them.
Yep. I would say that that was one of the more surprising things that I discovered while doing this podcast. So I've spoken to so many people who are self-employed, work from home, and it was surprising to me how many of them are spiritual or have some sort of spiritual practice. They meditate, or they take care of themselves. And it's just I guess looking at it now, I get it. I mean, you've got to drive yourself. You're driving, no one's telling you what to do. You have to have your own motivation. And how do you do that, right? Uh, but it's just, I don't know. It was interesting that I just interview after interview, we'd be talking about stuff, and then all of a sudden the spirituality would pop up. And you'd be like, okay, spirituality comes into business quite often here. And I don't think that's what we see on the movies when we think of, like, high-powered businesses. We don't, I don't think I've ever seen very many movies that show a spiritual, and if they do, it's the crazy guy, right?
Yeah, well,
So
very few people know, for example, that Steve Jobs, who was this creative visionary, the one book he had always in his iPad was the autobiography of a yogi. And he went on meditation retreats in India and
wow.
whatever. So and he speaks a lot about how he leveraged his intuition to get these insights. Or the
Yeah,
founder of Southwest Airline, who just comes from this tradition, and his passion was to bring fun to work, and he made the whole airline on a brand. I don't know if particularly in the early days, if you flew Southwest, they were using humor, and they were so different, and they had the courage to be different. So you have to be inner directed to have the courage, and to express yourself and express your uniqueness and be authentic, and that's kind of your life force coming through you, and
wow.
in the unique way that you are. Life has never made two Tims. 14 billion years into the history of the universe, there's never been a Tim with these characteristics
Yeah,
of as a human being, physiologically, your DNA, whatever. uh, and there's never going to be another one. So the courage to be our unique authentic self and to express that in contribution, in connection to the web of life that we are a part of. So this is both this is the paradox of, we have the courage to be our individual authentic free self, but we don't want to be so independent that we're disconnected from others and we're
yeah,
feeling lonely. And
yeah.
that's what sort of the spiritual thing is. Go inward, discover your unique thing, your life force, your spirit, express it, but express it in a way that's connected and keeps you interdependent and connected. And then you feel like you're a member of this web of life, and you remember yourself.
Mm,
Yeah, and both, I'm using the word member in two senses: to remember who and what you
yeah.
are really in your essence, but you member yourself into the web of life, and then you don't feel lonely and isolated, uh, and disconnected from what's going on. And I think that's we want to have it both way. We want to be our unique and our individual self, in our autonomy and our authenticity and freedom of expression, but we got to find a way to do that within the context of belonging in a community, in a society, and because we are social beings, and our survival depends on it, our psychology depends on it. So.
So now let's talk about that, about belonging. Let's talk a little bit about the band. So who is it that you have around you in your band?
Yeah, well, I have, I mean, doing the work I'm doing now, I mean, I wrote a book. I host these monthly events. I have a website that, people can go in and get a free assessment of their spiritual intelligence profile. So it's much more than I could do on my own. But, somehow people that knew about my work, that found resonance in it, kind of connected with me. And then so I've got one person who's like a terrific tech lead, and she manages the website and all of that. I have someone who is an editor who helped me edit the book, and now helping me churn out, these blogs every month on Psychology Today, which is a top branded publication in the
Yep.
field of psychology. And I couldn't do all these things on my own. I have somebody else that manages the development team in Portugal for me. And so I have this. There's three other people on my team working, and we're all aligned, we're all excited, and but we each have our freedom. People are working from home. As I said, one person is based in Portugal, managing the development team there. One person is in Northern California, in Mill Valley, and then my editor is in New York.
Wow.
So, we're spread all over the world. And then I recruited and I certify other coaches. So I have about 8 certified spiritual intelligence coaches. And again, I have people all over the world that somehow were interested in this idea and want to bring it in their coaching practice. And so I have someone in Turkey, I have someone in Luxembourg, and then several people across the U.S. That are, part of this network of coaches that are using spiritual intelligence as the framework for their coaching. So they're helping people to awaken their spiritual intelligence and express it. So, some of the people may want to, listening to this, if you want a coach to help you, go to our website, Intelligency, and find one of the coaches. If they resonate for you, they might be helpful to you. So anyway, but that's part of my network of people that are helping bring this to the world that I can't just do on my own.
Wow. Love that. Well, you see, okay, let's move into your guest solo though then. So tell me what's exciting in your business right now.
Well, I was actually already telling you, which is
Yeah.
that, where I feel that, both as individual as in a society, we're in a critical juncture. When you think about it, everybody knows about IQ, right?
Yep.
Intelligence is super important, our intellectual intelligence, cognitive intelligence, etc. Where we draw on our intellectual resources, whether it's mathematical reasoning or comprehension or spatial reasoning, etc. And as humanity, it's gotten us to the moon. We split the atom. We've deciphered the genome. Now we've built AI that is smarter than many of us. And then we have, in the last 30 years or so, it's gotten into the zeitgeist, this idea of emotional intelligence, that
Yep.
we can use not only our intellectual resources, but we can use our emotions as resources and tap into them and get in touch with them and draw on emotional information, and that helps us. Uh, but now, but somehow, even despite all of that, we have our IQ, we have our EQ, but you look at the world, it's a big mess right now. Anxiety, depression rates,
Yep.
addiction rates, suicide rates are soaring. We have political polarization. We've got all these problems. We have wars. And so I think the real answer is that we need to help understand and awaken spiritual intelligence, which, you know, understands our in both our uniqueness and our interdependence, like we are talking about, that helps people actualize themselves individually, but also embeds them into a community and a sense of belonging. And we start to wake up from this delusion of separation, that we're all interdependent. And so to me, that's very exciting, and that's the work I'm trying to bring into the world. And I've got this team of people that I mentioned, these coaches, other people through my writing, through the book, through the blogs, the coaching I do with CEOs, and then they bring these things into their organizations at the top, and then it ripples out through their thing. And then the work I'm doing with couples that want conscious, relationship, and not just meet their basic human needs, which we obviously need from a companion and partner, but to have a higher purpose for the relationship itself is a practice ground for healing and growth. And
Yep.
the relationship itself is a spiritual practice. So to me, it's all very excited, and I feel like I'm contributing into what is needed in the world, and the people I'm working with are finding great benefits from it. So that's actualizing my potential, leveraging my experience, both my successes and my failures, all the lessons that I've learned that now I can help others with, and that's very fulfilling.
Wow. Wow. I'm very excited about what you're doing too. I think it's very important. I mean, I think that some of the things that we used to talk about is just intuition, right? We used to think, oh, I have this gut feeling about this direction or that direction, and you know, we don't give it as much weight as we should. And I think sometimes, some I think there is a movement towards that now. I think you're on the cutting edge of something that I hope is going to spread a lot more.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Intuition is certainly part of spiritual intelligence, but our intuition awakens, we have to do all the cognitive analysis and this and that, but then we let go of the thoughts, and then something deeper, a higher voice, something, a higher self knows sometimes things that we can't figure out through our thinking mind. And that's not to say that we don't need to do all the analysis and the thought, but there's something else that gives us our unique power and access to these insights that we can't get otherwise.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, I think what I find interesting though is that there are a lot of people that will say I had a gut feeling that this was a bad idea, but my brain told me to do it, and it ends up being a bad idea, right? Uh, or vice versa. I had this gut feeling that this was a good idea, but my brain couldn't let me do it. And those are the things that you just haunt you forever, right? And I do think that you're right. There's got to be some sort of like connection between the two of them. I mean, yeah, use your brain, but don't discount that gut feeling, right? There's something going on there, right? Connect with it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So how do we find out more?
Well, people can connect to me. I mean, just go to awakeningspiritualintelligence.org. It's one word. It's a nonprofit, and it will link
Oh,
you to all my resources. Or you can go to Awakening SI for short, instead of spelling out spiritual intelligence, just the abbreviation of SI. I have a YouTube channel at Awakening Spiritual Intelligence, and there's a bunch of resources and videos and stuff there. And from there, you can connect to this website that I mentioned, Intelligency, where you can do free assessments of your spiritual intelligence profile. And I have my coaching website, I've got my psychotherapy website, but you can all find it all if you go to awakeningspiritualintelligence.org and navigate from there. You'll find me.
awesome. All right, I got one more last question here. Who's your favorite rock star?
My favorite rock star, oh my God. Well, my teenage rock star was Jim Morrison.
Yeah, yeah.
And these days, I like Sting.
Yeah,
I like Sting these days. But yeah, there's so many good ones. It's just like, depending on my mood. So
awesome. Well, good for you for picking a couple because I don't even know what I would say. Well,
okay, well,
question.
yeah. All right. I was
Awesome.
going to ask you, so who are yours?
The Beatles are my number one
Well, yeah,
favorite
that's
rock
a
stars.
classic.
Yeah,
That's a classic. Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they
Well, of course,
still
uh-huh.
today.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I thought the Beatles, but I thought, okay, that's a little too whatever.
It's
Yeah.
obvious. Actually, I think I'm wearing a Beatles shirt right now.
Oh, awesome.
Awesome.
What does it say on it?
This
Can't
was
buy me love.
Can't Buy Me
Okay.
Love. Yeah, that's some of their
Cool.
early work, but I liked it all. It was when I was learning play guitar, it was actually the Beatles that I was learning on for the most part, and
Uh-huh.
it's learn their catalog and you'll learn just about anything. They just did it all. Like,
Yeah, well, they're clearly musical geniuses and they tapped into something. But it's interesting, when you listen to music, you don't necessarily realize it, but a lot of their music is actually grounded in spirituality.
it
And,
is.
a lot of their later stuff became more and more explicit,
Yep.
My Sweet Lord and
Uh-huh.
whatever.
Yeah.
All, all you need is love. And,
Yeah, no, it's true. And there are actually some instances of some of the Beatles and plenty of musicians out there that just say it just came to me. Just came to me in a dream or just some sort of like, very, very spiritual. Yes. Like the whole thing, like some of them will even say the whole music, everything just came to me in a dream. Like
Well, that's what
amazing.
Mozart also speaks about, like all he says, when I'm relaxed and in good cheer, I don't know where this music is coming from. I'm just kind of a channel.
Yep.
So it's not like our egoic efforts that produce that creativity. It's like we
Yeah.
quiet our mind down, call it intuition, call it insight, calling download, but it's in music, it's also in science. A lot of the great scientific breakthroughs are, they wake up in the morning or in the middle of the night, the benzene, molecule and whatever. It's just like it
Yeah.
wasn't through some kind of algorithm they figured it out.
Love it. This has been so cool. Thank you for rocking out with me today, Yossi. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's fun to jam with you, Tim.
Absolutely. And to the listeners, make sure you go to workathomerockstar.com for more information, and we'll see you next time.